Welcome to the Family Dynasty Podcast, where legacy meets leadership. I'm your host, Matt Dewing, family guide, business advisor, and believer in generational purpose. Our aim is to inspire and equip you to lead your family so that together you will experience compounding wealth in all 7 capitals through the generations. Each week we uncover timeless wisdom, cultural dynamics, and practical tools to help you lead with vision, live with intentionality, and build a flourishing family that multiplies in impact. Let's get to work. The dynasty starts now. Welcome back to the Family Dynasty Podcast, where legacy meets leadership. And we continue our journey through the 7 capitals of wealth. Today, bringing us to the 5th capital, financial wealth. Now, if you've been with us for this series, you'll understand that financial capital is not the primary capital. It is, in fact, not the first, second, third, or even fourth. We want to build this financial wealth capital on a strong foundation that is primarily spiritual, health, relational, and intellectual. Why? Because without these deeper capitals, financial wealth risks becoming a master instead of a servant. Financial wealth is unique. It is what I call a servant capital, a tool that magnifies the others. Handled rightly, it can fund mission, sustain health, strengthen family relationships, fuel education, and expand social and societal impact. But handled wrongly, it can become a snare, blinding us to our higher callings. Think of Abraham, Joseph, Solomon, men entrusted with extraordinary resources, not for personal indulgence, but for covenantal purposes. God's pattern has always been clear. We are blessed to be a blessing. Financial wealth is never the end game. It is fuel for generational purpose. In today's conversation, first of all, you'll notice that the audio quality is less than ideal. I had a mic issue. And while we would like to re-record this at some point, I didn't want you to miss this conversation that I had with my 2 daughters, Elena and Ellie. We explore the biblical vision for wealth, the tension many Christians feel between simplicity and the responsibility of stewarding complexity, and the staggering reality of generational compounding. We'll ask questions like, what could your family accomplish if you began stewarding resources with a 200-year horizon instead of 1 lifetime? And what happens when Christian families recover a theology of financial legacy that is as missional as it is practical? So let's step in this together, because when we reframe financial wealth as missional fuel, not just personal gain, we open the door to a vision of family stewardship that can bless nations and generations. Welcome back to the Family Dynasty Podcast. Today, I'm so happy you girls have joined me again. I love that we're mixing it up, and this is just so much fun for a dad to be having conversation with his daughters. I really pray that people listen to this and are blessed and encouraged by it. But if it goes no further than these conversations, it is enriching to me. I hope it is for you girls, and I appreciate that you keep coming back so we can have these conversations. Well, we're continuing our series in the 7 capitals of wealth, and today we're focusing on the 5th capital, which is
financial wealth.
Financial wealth, yes. So let's talk about this analogy again. The analogy, we can do it different ways, but one way we can think about it is a building where spiritual is the foundation, and you're kind of building up from that, building on top of the spiritual health, the spiritual vitality, the spiritual wealth of a family, and then building on top of that our health, relationships, intellect, finances. That's where we are today. And then we build on that our social connections, our social network, and then ultimately for societal impact. I like the analogy that we're using, though, about the athlete, the javelin thrower. Now, I've asked you, neither of you want to do this analogy.
I don't remember
it.
All
right, so I'm going to keep doing it so we catch it. But the idea is for an athlete, the core. The core is the connection between the ground, which is stationary, where you get your force from, to what you're propelling, right? You're launching that force ultimately for the furthest distance you can if we're a javelin thrower in this case. So spiritual is like the core. it's like the epicenter of everything. You have to have a strong core to really be effective. Second, when we think of the second capital of health, it's like the heart and lungs. Right? You've got to be in shape. You've got to really have that endurance and strength. The third thing being relationships is the connection with the ground. Where the foot connects with the ground, you've got to be grounded. And if we don't have good force off from the ground, that javelin can't go anywhere. Yeah. The fourth is you have to have the brains. You have to have the brains to think it through, be coordinated, and put it all together. And then fifth is financial. When people look at the javelin thrower, when people see it, everybody's just so impressed with the extension of that arm and watching that arm go and launching that javelin. And that's the way it is with most families. When you ask a family, who's your primary advisor? My financial advisor, of course. Mm-hmm. For families, they're like the general practitioner. They're the gatekeeper. Most families think my most important advisor is either my attorney, my estate planner, attorney, or my accountant, who is my tax person. But quite generally, it's my financial advisor. It's when you're in the gym, it's curls for the girls. Right? It's the curl exercise that gets all the attention. But it's really, the bicep is not the most important muscle in your body. Right? It gets a lot of oohs and ahs. But when it comes to being really physically healthy and a great athlete, a lot more attention has to go to these other areas. And so I think this is the analogy we want for finances as well. And then to round out the analogies, social is kind of the crowd. It's our crowd, it's our friends, it's people cheering us on. And ultimately the societal impact is how far can we throw that javelin? What kind of impact can we have? So today talking about, we're going to talk about the bicep, the sexy part of the 7 capitals of wealth today.
I feel like it's if someone thinks of wealth, this is generally probably the only thing that they think about is the financial wealth.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is why we've done the work to reframe 7 capitals of wealth, to put more attention on the other ones. And at the same time, financial wealth is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how is your view? I could talk for a while on how this has been a lifelong formation for me to kind of come out of a poverty mindset and have my mind completely changed. Not that a life of simplicity is bad or wrong, but that actually seeing the creation of family wealth as a moral good and actually a duty that God kind of expects of families. Where are you personally in wrestling with that, right? Because is that a natural thought for you? Because I think we're speaking to all kinds of people. Some people who have grown up generationally to say, yeah, we have a massive family financial portfolio, and we understand the moral good of stewarding rich financial assets. And we're going to be also talking to others who see the moral badge being poverty or giving it all away, and they see any thought of financial wealth as being synonymous with greed or poor character. So where are each of you on that journey? We'll get into some more specifics, but just kind of real personally.
I mean, I definitely think having financial stability enables you to go out and do those things that you dream of. It gives you the ability to make an impact where you want. Like, finances definitely can back up those dreams. Yeah. So you want to have something saved up to enable a business startup or whatever.
I think for me, when Trey and I first got married, we were very much like, we don't want to be indebted to people, and that's kind of where we were in terms of thinking about financial wealth. And as we worked towards paying off debt, there were people in our lives who actually would say things like, do you think you're better because you're paying off your debt? That it wasn't something that was important to do. And I feel like that kind of goes along with how some people view wealth. It's not necessarily moral to be wealthy and to be financially stable. You can be humble and have poor means. But we really didn't want to go down that route. So we did pay off our loans, but now that we have Clover, our daughter, I feel like it's even shifting more. We're thinking, we want to be able to help prepare her like in the future and invest in her. So I feel like for us, the idea of wealth is like growing beyond just us not being indebted to other people, being able to be comfortable, to wanting to make something for her as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's really freeing not to have that debt, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep. But yeah, it was very surprising to me that people in our Christian like community would have that view towards us that like we were trying to be better than others because we don't want to take on debt. That surprised me.
Yeah. Well, maybe you have seen enough of the world and been around long enough to realize that the area we live in northeastern Pennsylvania, has a specific poverty mentality.
Yeah.
You have grown up in an area that is plagued by a mentality that poverty is a virtue. Mm-hmm. And so you see that around you, even in the Christian community. Whereas if you were to grow up in different cities or places in America that don't have that, right? It's just every locale has its views that influence us, and so certainly us just growing up in this area has had an impact on the way we. And so this is one of my visions and goals for my lifetime, right? Honestly, for our family's influence in this region, is that we would continue. I think we have made some inroads for sure, and we want to continue to just see this mentality grow. Certainly, greed is heinous, right? There's nothing good that comes from greed, and yet there is much flourishing that comes from wise stewardship and not shying away when God calls a family to steward complexity, not shying away from it. Mm-hmm. We're not here to say that God calls every family, every individual, or every family to steward financial wealth and steward complexity. But it is my conviction that that's the norm. Just like babies grow, unless some disease or disorder comes in. It's kind of the way God has wired the world. Your financial wealth tends to grow if you are going to be a good steward of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like whether you have just a small amount of money in the bank or a large amount, like you have to steward it wisely. And like you don't have to have thousands of dollars, $1 million to steward it well. Just steward well what God has given you at that time.
Yeah, it's like the parable of the talents. Not every family is going to have the same amount as others, but you're going to be given something, and you are expected to steward that well and to try to make increase on that. Yeah.
Okay, so thinking of financial wealth as this fifth capital, we want to think of it as the servant capital. Financial wealth amplifies and sustains the others when rightly stewarded. That's just what you were saying, Elena. So let's just kind of anchor this a little more in a biblical worldview, the God-honoring vision of financial wealth. Think about, who are some Old Testament characters you think that God blessed financially? Can you think of any of them?
Definitely how Joseph was put in control or in stewardship of a lot of Egypt, the food stores, etc.
I've heard it said that if you think about Abraham's wealth, all the camels and oxen, all the servants that he had, his wealth is probably substantially more than some of the richest people in the world today. So there are these characters in the Bible who had great character. Money did not deter them from their pursuit of God and pursuit of righteousness. And they were able to hold it loosely, but steward it well. And I think we just need to caution families. We want to caution ourselves and families that you don't need to be afraid of wealth, that wealth in of itself is corrupting.
Yeah. Yep.
You have to guard your heart and steward your heart well and hold things loosely, because one of the pushbacks we have against, why would I even go through the effort to put structures around trying to create and sustain generational wealth when the large majority of the time, the patriarch makes the money, the second generation.
Those that receive it don't appreciate it.
Right, and then by the third generation it's gone.
Yeah.
Right, so in 3 generations, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves, or rags to riches, back to rags for the family. And we see this so often, but a big reason we see it is because families don't give the family the vision of how to steward it and put the structures in place. We see too many great examples when the structures are there and the vision is there and the training is there, that it actually compounds generation after generation. So we're trying to help families say, just because it's kind of the norm that we see, doesn't mean it should be. Doesn't mean your family is doomed for that to happen. That being said, where I was going to go with this thought was, ultimately, God says, don't put your trust in riches because they can mount up like an eagle and fly away. I think of us fishing in Canada. We love to watch the eagles. They sit there so still for so long. That can be family's wealth for generations. And then, you look again and that eagle just took off and flew away. That's how fast wealth can dissipate in any generation. And while we want to set up structures and we really believe that God wants families to steward wealth where it grows generation after generation after generation, and we want to give some families some tools and ideas of how to think about that. Ultimately, that's not where we put our trust and faith, because it can mount up in any generation and fly away. And so this is where, if our focus is a holistic wealth, you can always recapture the financial wealth. It's harder to recapture some of these other spiritual, the health culture, the relational culture.
Yeah, because the money itself isn't what's lasting. It's what can you do with that money to make a lasting impact.
Yeah, wealth is not about personal luxury, but about resourcing mission, serving communities, and establishing a multi-generational impact. We want to contrast this with the prosperity gospel. We're not talking about a prosperity gospel where pursuing financial capital is really about self-indulgence. It's really about stewardship. Let's talk about, you've seen this, many of the influencers, right? I just see this theme over and over again, that to live a truly godly life is to lead a life of simplicity, downsize. Go from your normal average house down to a tiny house. Give it all away. Lead a very simple life. Let's talk about that.
I feel like something that might influence that is if people think about what the Bible says about money, what the Bible says about wealth, I feel that something that comes to mind is that story of when Jesus told the rich ruler, like, go sell your stuff, give it to the poor. And while that is definitely something that happened, you looking at the overarching theme of the Bible, like you mentioned, the Old Testament characters, etc., and in the New Testament, there's people who use their wealth well and like for the glory of God. So that is a story that God may call some people to do, but I don't think you can take that as a rule or as a law for everyone. I don't think that's something in the Bible that we're all supposed to do as if it was a commandment to us. And that might be part of it, people having a one-sided view instead of a holistic view of what the Bible has to say about wealth.
Yeah, I agree. I would think if I would hope if any one of us were that rich young ruler and were asked by Jesus, sell it all. I hope we would.
Yeah.
And I love the stories of people who have literally felt like God has put his finger on their chest and said, you are that person, sell it all. And they've done it.
Yeah.
Right? And they're wonderful stories. And praise God, because he will for some people. And I believe for some families. There'll be those that he says, sell it all. It'll be a test. And when they obey, there's nothing like giving it all away. We're not here we're not here to say that that's not God's calling on some families.
Right.
But I think in God's economy, that's actually going to be an aberration. Whereas what's more normal is the family that compounds its wealth.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of the living a simple life, the simple house and not all these extra things. Maybe it's just a difference in viewing things, like when you have the big house, the cars, the toys. It is, you're putting your money into those physical things. It's a lot to maintain. So maybe some people are just looking for a simpler life, less things to take care of so they can have more time to focus on. So I don't know. It really depends. What's your motives behind?
Yeah, the old adage, the more you own,
the more that owns you.
Yeah.
The
The more you have, the more you have to take care of the things you have, as the Jungle Book song. Yeah, the Jungle Jam song.
Very true. And again, simplicity is a great thing. But I hope if I'm at least putting a pebble in somebody's shoe to say it is not the only way to live a godly life.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And like you guys have a nice big house, but you use it for great things. You use it for hospitality. And so for where you're at, this is not necessary, but like what your guys are called to at this stage is a big house for these different missions.
You're using it to bless others, to bless others. Something that I thought of when going through this was in Proverbs, there's a verse that goes something like, better to have veggies and love or peace than having a fattened cow but strife in your house. Something along those lines. And I feel like that goes with these capitals of wealth so well, because it's not saying don't have a fattened calf, like it's bad if you eat well and if you're eating good food. It's just saying it's more important to have peace in your family than have strife. And I feel like that goes along with what we're saying, that like that relational and spiritual wealth is the foundation. And then upon that, financial wealth is fine, but of more importance and priority is your relational wealth.
Also, that's great.
Yeah, and I thought of the parable where the guy's like storing up all this stuff, all this grain in his barn, just storing. Now I can just, sit back and enjoy the rest of my life. Like, there should be a higher purpose for storing up wealth. Like, not just to, like, retire and golf the rest of your life.
Right.
Like, what are you storing this up for?
Yeah.
What's
Oh,
the generational impact?
that makes me think of one of the things, when I think of that, one of the things that I want to challenge families with, especially those couples who are approaching retirement or they're in retirement and they've made it, right? They've made it to financial security. They don't have to work the rest of their life. They kind of, whether they're younger or older. And one thing, Janice and I, we hit that spot, right? We have 8 kids, 4 of you are married out of the house, the other 4 are still being raised, but we got to hit that. We can retire to the golf course, right? And enjoy life. And as we've embraced this vision for developing a robust family economy and really developing the family council and moving into this vision for Family Dynasty, it's kind of like parenting 2.0. At least that's the phrase that I've been thinking about. It is not that we're parenting you kids, but it's going back to some intentionality, to say there's more discipleship that needs to be done. There's more training, there's more structuring, that there's more giving, right? And kind of what we've done in developing this family economy is, in some ways, it's draining some resources from Janice and I that we could be playing with more in order to really see this come to fruition. And there's no more delightful work than what we're doing. But it's hard, right? If you've had a vision your whole life to get the education, get a great job, put away money in your 401k so you can retire to the golf course, and then you hear something like this, oh my goodness. We're messing with people's vision,
Their plans,
here a little bit, and that's intentional, right? There's a better life than retiring to the golf course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better, more fulfilling.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's doing life with your kids and grandkids in a very rich way. So the power of generational compounding, let's talk about that. It's been said that in your lifetime, in my lifetime certainly, it's kind of a bubble in history where you don't have to be part of a family system to be a billionaire. Up until really my lifetime, the only way you would be a billionaire would be to have wealth that came from your family, that compounded generation after generation after generation. In just a matter of years now, right? In just a couple years, 2, 3, 4 years, you can go from nothing in America, right? Greatest country in the world because we give the kind of economic opportunity for someone who has literally zero money to become a billionaire.
Yeah.
In less than 5 years. It's a crazy time in history. that no other time in history has this been possible. And so we don't want to discount that or say that's not, hey, good for them, good for anybody who can do that. But when you look at the course of history, and for most people, this idea of the slow process, rather than the get rich quick scheme or just finding the formula to the perfect business, there is a way that is a slow plod, but through faithful stewardship can see a family's wealth compound generation after generation after generation.
Yeah.
We have one example. This is an example I put together. Now, you can redo it for anybody's numbers. What if a matriarch and patriarch could leave $5 million? Let's say they did well in business, and so they leave their family, rather than dividing the inheritance. And we can talk about that a little bit too. The one thing that we see is when a family divides the inheritance, it divides the family. Right? So what if a family consolidated the inheritance, set the family up so that they were expected to together steward it generation after generation? Even if you put it into passive investments. So let's say a family, a patriarch and matriarch, set up a $5 million fund at their death. And they said, we want this to compound for 6 more generations. That's a long time, right?
Yeah.
But if you think a generation is 40 years, let's just use that clean number of 40 years for a generation.
It's about 204 years.
So that's 200 years, because when they die, right, they got to go through 6 more generations. So it's a 200-year vision. What do you think that $5 million, let's say you add nothing to it, and let's say it only compounds at a rate of 8%. Right? That's a very conservative number, because when you get into the world of $5 million plus, you have access to different kind of investments that are going to, inevitably your portfolio is going to average 12, 15, 20%.
So 8's conservative.
8's very conservative. So let's say you add nothing more to that $5 million. You don't even say to the next generation, treat this as first generation, and do something with it that builds it. Let's say you just put it with a good financial manager. How much after 200 years do you think that fund is?
Yeah, but a lot.
Gotta be huge.
Yeah, you've heard, I think it was Einstein who said compounding interest, the 8th wonder of the world.
Yeah.
And it is great when you sit down with a financial planner and they kind of look like, in your lifetime, especially you young girls, hey, if you start saving now, what your money can be by the time you're 7 years old. It's pretty amazing. But now what if you say 2 lifetimes, 3 lifetimes, 4 lifetimes, all right? So we're looking at the end of 200 years, $24 trillion.
Wow.
Okay, now time value of money. Let's readjust this for the time value of money, because inflation
Yeah.
is
That's
inevitable.
what
It
I
always
was
happens.
thinking.
So what is it really? What does it feel like if it was today? $75 billion.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay. So what if I had an uncle back in the day, Uncle Alex. Right? There's kind of some stories about him. This is several generations back, and people talk about. I think Uncle Alex was childless, and some of the stories was he was a great philanthropist, and he helped set up some of the nieces and nephews in business and help them. So I think I had Uncle Alex, who in his time may have had, a nest egg at the end of his life that would have been worth in today's economy maybe $5 million. What if Uncle Alex would have? I don't know if he was 7 generations ago, but let's just say he would. What if he would have set that fund up for the Doohan family? How do you think the Doohan family might steward $75 billion today? That's a rhetorical question. We don't need to answer.
Right.
But this is the question I'm asking for people to consider and think about. And because on one hand we want to discount it. 200 years, so much can happen. Like why bother?
But do you think 200 years ago somebody did that?
There are families where that has happened. Absolutely. And I can't wait to interview some of those families.
Yeah,
to
that'd
say
be interesting.
Who is living now that 7 generations ago someone had a vision for this?
Right.
And what is the level of flourishing in a family? Honestly, the thought came to me. This is why we have the capitals, because it is so common that you'll see families that, we have $75 billion, but relationally, spiritually, they're an absolute wreck.
Yeah.
Because finances has become the foundation. Finances has become the defining part of their life. This is a big part of why we're calling families to catch the vision for these 7 capital of wealth and build rightly
Yeah. And finances can be such a dividing thing. I mean, you hear it's one of the highest disagreements in marriages over finances. So I can't imagine families where you've got multiple people with ideas and ways you want to steward it, and could really be a divisive topic.
It can be, yeah. Which goes to why the structures of family and who you empower in leadership positions in a family, in the family council, that DNA of making sure you're a giving family, you're a generous family, you're focused more on the more foundational capitals that allow the financial capital to just be the sail catching the wind. Be a lot of flourishing. Here's something that I want to think about is societal influence and wealth. This is again where I think Christians shy away, like, oh, I don't want to manipulate things. Who am I to kind of exert my opinion or have influence? Do you know when it comes to, let's just think about the political realm, for instance, that on the left, these super PACs are a lot of the funding that goes toward political causes. And when you look at the liberal PACs compared to conservative PACs, the money differential is ridiculous because there are, well, here's the point I want to make. Non-Christian families, think Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Waltons, a lot of non-Christian families, they have harnessed multi-generational wealth, and they use their influence to shape education, politics, media, and business. And the irony of this is that this is fundamentally a Christian paradigm. Generational wealth is fundamentally a Christian paradigm. Think Deuteronomy 6, Proverbs, covenantal blessings. But many Christian families neglect it.
Yeah.
Isn't that an interesting irony?
Yeah, when we are called to be shaping the world around us. So money is a tool for that.
That's right.
For sure.
Yeah. I think some people take the verse, store up for yourselves treasures in heaven instead of on earth. They take that maybe too far. It's like, can't do anything on earth. It's got to all be for heaven. I don't know. So just shifting your mindset that there is impact you can have on earth with your money that will also have an eternal impact.
Yeah. Yeah, something that Trey always says is that money is a tool. And I feel like having a view of that is really good because obviously we're not supposed to love money, but it is a very impactful tool to help with things in the world, like help impact, like you said, education, politics, et cetera, which are important. They should be important to us.
I think another verse that I think we ought to address is the verse that we should rightly give a lot of thought to, but trips people up, is Jesus' words that it's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than it is for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. And having been in Jerusalem and seeing, the eye of the needle, you understand that it's in the historical context, it's a door. And the needle was a small door in the door. And so the only way to get in that door is to bend low. And what I believe the meeting Jesus was having there, he was turning everything on its head. At that time, the hearers who were hearing Jesus understood generational wealth. Those who had lived righteous lives and had stewarded properly were living in the generational blessing of wealth. And so that was, if you had generational wealth, it was a sign that you were blessed by God. And so he was basically taking everything that they understood and flipping it on its head. Because he's saying, you can't trust in that. I'm the only one you can really trust in for salvation. And what money many times brings is this feeling of invincibility. I don't need anything else. I don't need anybody else. I certainly don't need God. I've got money. I'm taken care of.
Yeah, they put their security in money alone.
So I think too many people take that and say, oh, well, no one should be rich. No one should have money because
It's
obviously the kingdom of God. Go ahead.
Right. Because it says it's impossible to enter the kingdom of heaven. But then also, not to interrupt you, but also the often taken out of context verse is right after that where someone's like, how's anyone going to enter heaven then if that's the case? And Jesus says, with man it's impossible, but with God all things are possible. So that also applies to, it's not impossible for a rich person to enter heaven then, ultimately.
Yeah.
I want to address a couple practical things that I'm going to be doing a podcast. It may come out before this one, I'm not sure. We're going to address to financial advisors that, listen, we want to come alongside of them. We are not, at Family Dynasty, as family advisors, we're in no way competing with any other advisor. We're there to come alongside and help. I think the value of us as advisors is we're completely independent. We're not beholden to any financial advisor. We're not beholden to any, we're going to tell the family the way we see it. we are there 100% for the family, which is the benefit of not having our services come through your financial institution or otherwise. But I am going to step on the toes of some financial advisors with this statement. I just want families to be aware that there is sometimes an inherent conflict of interest with a financial advisor who is recommending the family gives all or most of their money away because they're incentivized by assets under management. And so if they put, the more they can convince a family to put in a donor advised fund will elevate their assets under management, which is going to give them a better commission. And I have seen this trend. There's this trend in America right now. Financial advisors think it is the most virtuous thing to persuade families to give most of their money away instead of entrusting it to the next generation.
Interesting.
And what saddens me so much about this is not that there's this great generosity that's happening. Right? Praise God. There's wonderful resources that are being unleashed for wonderful causes. That's great. But having some inside look at some of these people who manage donor advised funds, they're forecasting 10 years into the future and they're seeing a cliff. Because the baby boomers are coming, a lot of money is hitting, end of life, a lot of money is hitting these donor advised funds. Mm-hmm. But because of changing demographics, because of changing wealth, is this boom that's happening right now and people giving things away is not sustainable. Mm-hmm. If it's not entrusted to the next generation to grow it.
Right.
And the point I want families to consider is, if you could give $1 million away today, if you could give away $10 million today, what if you had trained your family? What if you do train your family to take that, let's just say if you're going to give away 10 million, let's say you only give away half. Let's say you only give away 5 million now, but you put the other 5 million and you teach your family, you set up structures for your family to compound that. How much more giving can you generate off that into the future than just giving it away today?
Yeah. So maybe this is off topic, but if there's someone like my family, like me and Trey, we're young, we have one kid, like median income, and we want to do something like this, or we're interested in something like this, where do you start with that?
You start with a vision, and you don't despise small beginnings. Mm-hmm. Again, what this did for me, even though your mom and I have been blessed by God with a measure of wealth, it's been amazing. We've accomplished more in this financial realm than I ever dreamed was possible for us. And you could say my dreams aren't big enough, but even then, it's been an amazing ride. But you know what? This vision of generational compounding wealth took so much pressure. I think over the years, pressure has been coming off my shoulders, especially as you guys got older and I matured. And I just became a less fearful person and trusted God more. Right? Ultimately, we can trust God for everything. But I did notice that this message of Family Dynasty took my pressure down substantially. Because I realized, even if we hadn't amassed any wealth, my job is to train you guys to take whatever it is, whether it's the 1 talent, the 3 talents, or the 5 talents, whatever it is, that we steward it well while we're on earth, and then we train you to treat what we leave for you guys like your first generation. How can you hustle? How can you make this grow to the next level?
And then it's not just for us to enjoy, it's for us to invest in and leave for the next generation to come too.
You're training the next generation to treat it as first generation. And what it did was just say, I'm only responsible to do what I can do in my lifetime. I don't need to be superhuman. I don't need to be the guy who creates $1 billion business in 4 years. right?
Right.
Wish I could figure that out. I haven't been able to crack that code. And most people won't, and that's okay.
Right. So it sounds like obviously infusing those things into your kids while
Those
also,
values.
the values into your kids while also just like doing the next right thing, being a good steward of what you have, learning financial literacy, etc. Just to the point that you can and you're able to with what you have.
I love it, Ellie. I love how you asked the question. You answered it beautifully.
Oh no, I'm answering it based on what you said.
No,
You know what
you
I'm
just
saying?
summed it up beautifully. Yeah. And I think, so financial literacy, just stewarding what you have. Can you spend less than you make? And can you start saving something?
I think today in this culture, that's so countercultural. Spend less than you make. I think there's so many young people in debt, not just college debt, but just consumerism debt. We live in such a consumerism culture.
We live for the day.
Yeah.
We're in such an entertainment culture, and there's so much advertising coming at us. And we don't stop and realize how much we're affected by the advertising. We don't stop long enough to think, what could life be like if I exercise more self-discipline?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people my age just have like a checking account. And I feel that now that Trey and I have our daughter, I'm so much more interested in learning about different types of investments. Like what can we do to make the most of what we have and not just live for the moment.
And to set her up for a good future.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the beautiful things for Janice and I that we're so happy about right now is, we had set up TAP 529s for all 8 of you, and I think only a few of you have used it. And so we have a considerable amount in the TAP 529. Do you realize there's 11 in Gen 4 within 4 years?
Yeah.
And that's not your grandkids, but that's
We're gonna be
Grandma,
at-
grandpa's
we're
great
gonna be
grandkids.
Just in less than 2 years, we're going to be at 5 grandkids in the next 6-9 months.
Yeah.
But at that point, Grandma and Grandpa will have 11 great grandchildren.
Wow.
So anyway, that we have those funds still in 529 that can continue to compound right now. It's not like we just started with putting something in for Andrew and Clover, right? It's there. It's there and it's compounding now. So I love your question. Your question is, what if you're not connected?
right. Yes. Yeah. Like people who are our age and just want to start.
That's right. You look and see what, you meet with a financial planner, you say, what can compounding interest do for us by the time we're 60, 70, 80? And you'll be surprised with diligence, discipline, really what is possible.
Right.
And you celebrate even more when you're part of a family system that you're going to be able to reap some of the things that you didn't create. And your children will certainly reap things that you didn't create.
Like, here's a practical way that we used it. The house that Ian and I live in now, you enabled us to get that with a cash deal. Like, I had the funds to get a mortgage for it, but it was such a quick, like, on and off the market house that it would have taken, a long process to go through that. And you were able to help me do a cash deal, which got us the house, even though people offered more. And then we've taken that house and we've invested into it and put value for our future lives or whatever. So like, your generosity and wealth enabled us to hopefully enable.
Yeah, it was some self-interest for us too, because now you're only a half mile down the road from the farm.
Keep me nearby.
From the farm you manage, right?
Yeah.
Our farm is 2 miles from here, and another half mile you're there, so you're so close, and we're just delighted that you're in our lives in this way.
Yeah. So I don't think if it wasn't for your guys' help, I don't think I would necessarily gotten the house if I just gone through like what everyone else would have.
They chose your offer because it was a cash deal, no contingencies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So without your guys' help, I don't think it would have been possible.
Well, that was fun. Thanks, Lane. By the way, we didn't stop to say, yes, Ellie, you had your baby. This is the first time you've been back in a podcast since Clover was born.
Yeah.
Tell us about Clover.
She's almost 6 weeks old, and her name is Clover Jean. And her middle name means God is faithful, which was really important to us when we named her.
And she came out with this amazing head of hair. It was jet black Hair.
I was doing
everywhere.
jet black.
Stuff
That's dark.
everywhere.
Yeah. Got a lot of dark hair.
Oh, she is gorgeous.
Yeah, and she's starting to go bald already.
Oh no.
But,
They'll come
yeah.
back.
So she is our first granddaughter.
Yes, the
Yes.
first granddaughter, and she's already loved. You can tell everyone wants to see Clover. When she,
She's so precious. And she's smiling now and talking. Yep. No, she basically just says, aga.
already a little chatterbox.
And we're missing Megan because she's back at college.
Yeah, we'll have to Zoom her in sometime.
She's pretending like she's going to class, I think. She's having a lot of fun. No, she's working hard at it.
Yeah.
She's having a lot of...
Her classes sound hard.
Her classes are hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She has a couple really hard ones this semester.
Well, it's her senior year, so.
I think just in kind of wrapping this up, we want to challenge families, just move from survival. Right? This idea of getting out of debt. Move from the survival mode to where you can be generous. The one, I think it's the story of the Good Samaritan and how he was generous. Right? He was generous with somebody who wasn't even from his tribe. In another place in Scripture it says, so that you may be generous on all occasions. We want to have this vision for being in a place where the drop of a hat, that the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, that we can be generous with our finances. Move from survival to generosity, and then move from just a generosity mindset to a multi-generational planning mindset. And the practical steps, really, so how do you do it? Really, it starts with the vision, but it has to move into some kind of estate planning, some family structures. Maybe it's a family council, maybe it's a family office. And I love what you said, we didn't expound on it, but teaching financial literacy. We have to teach our children financial literacy and teach them the importance of self-discipline and delayed gratification. And then, of course, using trusts and foundations, different legal tools that are out there in order to have the best tax strategies in supporting compounding wealth into future generations.
I feel like that's such a huge step for some people, moving from survival towards generosity, then to multi-generational planning. That can just seem like so out of reach if you have lots of debt.
Yeah, the survival to generosity. Because it really takes, for some people, it might take a whole, changing the way of living.
Yeah, definitely. I know when Trey and I started getting out of debt, we kind of forecast, this will probably take 2 years, which in the scheme of things isn't that bad. But at the time I was like, that's a long time. That feels like a long time. And it took a lot of strategic things and some self-discipline, but ultimately
giving up on certain things, I'm sure.
Yeah. But yes, self-discipline and just being patient and then ultimately working through all those steps.
Yep.
One of the podcasts I want to do in the future is, the title I'm ruminating on is, can your family be in a different business than you are and can you still be a family dynasty if you have kids that are doing a different business? And the answer to that is yes. I think one of the things, we'll probably do a whole podcast on this, is developing a family bank. And the family bank concept is powerful because it's a place where if those at the family table are living according to the house rules, they're eligible to take a loan from the family bank, or maybe they want to start a business that is a family business. And there's life insurance strategies that can be used where you're guaranteeing the repayment of the loan, and if not, upon your death, the life insurance makes that whole so that the family bank is never depleted, and it grows generation after generation. And having life insurance on different family members is a way to ensure that family bank continues to grow generation after generation. So there's just some really exciting strategies when you get beyond just a vision for it of how can you tap into it. But we'll finish with thinking about also rhythms. Take stock. What is your portfolio? What is your plans? Do you need to meet with an estate planning attorney? Do you need to meet with a financial advisor? Have you reviewed kind of where you are and what your goals are in the last year? And if not, do that and kind of set a rhythm of doing that annually. I guess I'll frame it with this too. Is I want to encourage families to reach out and take the Family Total Wealth Audit. In that, we have every family member kind of take this audit and we do some sophisticated analysis in the background that helps families prioritize. Because one thing that you can't do is set goals for your family in all 7 capitals at the same time and expect to have a great outcome. Is you need to say, where are we in the cycle of family life? What's most important? Where do we have the biggest gap? And what during this season do we want to really prioritize? Maybe it's we want to see our spiritual wealth more enhanced. Or maybe it is our financial wealth really needs some focus in this season. Whatever it is, that Family Total Wealth audit helps families tease that out and then just kind of get dialed in to some real specific plans. Because, you know, when you start looking at all set, it can become overwhelming. I remember when I was in business and I would go to seminars and I'm working in my business every day and I just became overwhelmed. How am I ever going to execute on all this stuff? And that's what we don't want to do for families. I love what you said earlier, just take the next right step. Yeah. Don't be overwhelmed, just take the next right step. All right, I can't wait to do the next podcast with you girls. Thanks so much.
It's good. Yes.
God bless.
Thanks for joining us on the Family Dynasty Podcast, where legacy is built, not just inherited. If today's episode helped you lead your family with greater vision or purpose, share it with someone else who's building a legacy that lasts. And remember, you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the power to get wealth, that He may establish His covenant. Deuteronomy 8:18. Keep building with faith, leading with love, and living for impact. Your family is your greatest calling.